since the Health Secretary got to his feet and made that declaration, I've already been contacted by midwives, obstetricians and neonatologists across the country, and had lots of families message me. And the question they've asked me is, the midwives and obstetricians, how many more midwives are going to say, we can't do this anymore? How many more obstetricians are going to say, I'm finished with obstetrics? We haven't got 6 months. How much harm, if we continue in the way we are continuing, how much more harm may occur to families in Nottingham and outside Nottingham, across England, if we wait 6 months for an action plan to be developed? That's not 6 months for them to be implemented. I don't think that's what they were saying. 6 months for an action plan to be developed. I'm just going to say to you that I'm going to invite the government to reconsider their position, because it is my duty to do that.
The Health Secretary didn't call them urgent and immediate actions, he called them recommendations, and you don't like that term.
No.
Because it implies you can take them or leave them. And I think that speaks to what you're saying about what the Health Secretary said today. The urgency isn't being understood. Lots of great words and big promises, but you've been here too many times before.
Absolutely. They are immediate and essential actions for a reason. We've had huge cooperation from Royal Colleges, professional organisations, to make sure that what we said in the report, based on our findings in Nottingham, 2,511 families, 838 members of staff, could be then distilled into 8 key areas of work. They are immediate and essential actions. They're not a pick and mix recommendations that we can take 6 months to even develop an action plan for.
Before you delivered your report today, this, along with the National Inquiry, the report which will be delivered by Baroness Amos in the coming days, this was seen as a pivotal point, a watershed moment in maternity care. Are you concerned that, given what you heard from the Health Secretary, that this could be an opportunity wasted?
Well, I mean, 6 months to develop an action plan, it sounds to me more like a dripping tap than a watershed moment. So let's just see what comes out in the coming days. I don't think that this is the urgency, that safe perinatal care, that families who may be using maternity services over the coming weeks and coming months, that midwives, obstetricians, obstetric anaesthetists and so on, going into work every day, giving of their best, in sometimes the most incredibly difficult circumstances. I hear that every day from colleagues on the ground. I don't think that this lack of urgency is what all of that group of people deserve.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is it's staff and mums and babies affected, and fathers, the ripple effect is huge. It's life-changing for so many. And as we sit here right now, nearly 50% of maternity units in the country are inadequate, unsafe, some dangerously so. We've been hearing from the families today at the heart of this, along with the NHS staff that you spoke to and have been affected. You've got to know them really well over the course of the last few years. And the families are saying that nothing short of a statutory public inquiry will do. The Health Secretary today said nothing is off the table. Do you agree with the families? Is that the point we have reached now, where this has to be the next step?
So I understand completely where the families are coming from. We have seen throughout this review excellent engagement from local families, from staff on the ground, but very, very disappointing levels of engagement from pretty recent executive colleagues.
They just didn't want to talk to you, Donna. You asked them and they refused your request.
They were recent former members of staff that I know got 3 letters from the current chief executive of the trust asking them to come forward.
And just ignored you?
They ignored him. They ignored him and therefore didn't contact us. And then there were another smaller number who did eventually get in contact with us, but then missed any reasonable deadline for arranging an interview. So when you put all that together, I am pleased that there's going to be a new law, as I understand it, from Parliament, which will compel colleagues and former colleagues to speak to, for example, the Sussex and Leeds reviews But I do see where the families are coming from and the deep level of frustration they will be sensing now in Nottingham.
Yeah, because in their eyes, the truth will never be uncovered unless those who hold the responsibility for failings give the unfettered truth, open the doors, hand over the access to what was known. And given what we've seen in your report, not just unsafe care, but cover-ups and lies.
Absolutely. So what we saw in Nottingham was very similar in one aspect to that which we saw in Shrewsbury and Telford. So we saw, instead of using the then established serious incident framework, Nottingham invented its own system, higher level incidents. Now, the consequence of that meant that what should have been serious incidents weren't declared externally, meant that the trust was less likely to be subject to scrutiny. And of course, we saw a very similar methodology in Shrewsbury.
Essentially
as well.
marking their own homework.
Absolutely, and avoiding others from seeing the results of the marking of that homework. So, and then of course in Nottingham, very different from Shrewsbury, because it didn't come to our attention, was the appalling standard of after-death treatment. I won't call it after-death care, after-death treatment of some of the deceased. And this came to us because families already within the review raised concerns. It was never I never intended to look at that. And that has been, in terms of a systemic issue that we've uncovered, and more evidence has come to light, that's been one of the most shocking things I've ever found in the whole of my career.
That's to do with mortuary care, again, at the same trust here in Nottingham. And again, that is one of your concerns about an action plan falling within the remit of the National Maternity Task Force, because it tightens the parameters of what will be looked at. Mortuary care won't be looked at by a task force specialising in maternity care.
Well, it's unlikely to be, and it would be very difficult to get the experts around the table. I don't believe that they are members of that task force. So what I would say as regards mortuary care, after death care and treatment, is there needs to be an urgent governance review. Urgent, not the end of the year, not in 6 months, an urgent review of governance standards across mortuaries in this country, so that we can assure ourselves, or perhaps not assure ourselves, that the same things that the brave families of Nottingham brought to our attention are not happening elsewhere.
Donna, it's been said many times today, we've been here before, you've been here before. You're next overseeing inquiries in Leeds and in Sussex, so unfortunately we will be here again. How do we break this cycle? What is your message to government, to the NHS, and to regulators today?
So government and the NHS, we gave a very clear roadmap for maternity safety in March 2022, following the publication of the Shrewsbury and Telford report. Sadly, most of that remains in the report, on the shelf, gathering dust. That is simply something that we cannot tolerate. Yet again today, we have set out immediate and essential actions, not recommendations, that once again will give a roadmap for safety that is supported by royal colleges, professional associations across all of the perinatal professions. I think the time for talking and reflection and thinking about it is long gone. We've got to get on now and fix the issues.